Are you planning a trip to Yellowstone National Park and don't know what to do for your itinerary? Well, my name is Natalie and I have been working as a tour guide in Yellowstone for a couple of years, and here is my recommended 2-day itinerary. Now, a few caveats with this itinerary. You will need to be able to drive. It will be full, long days, so having your own rental car or hiring a guide is going to be highly recommended for visiting Yellowstone. And then I have based my itinerary off of using the west entrance of Yellowstone, as this is the main entrance the majority of guests use. However, the stops in this itinerary can be altered for any entrance. It just may require a slight itinerary change, and I am happy to help anyone work through that if need be. Well, first, let's start with our first full day. I am not including travel days to Yellowstone, as most people have full day flights and then travel to their accommodations. Most people are going to choose to visit Yellowstone in 2 days if they either are limited on time or are hoping to do other excursions in the area, such as whitewater rafting or horseback riding. So this is my 2-day itinerary to see most of the main sites as possible and what I would follow if I was taking someone to Yellowstone for 2 full days. You're going to want to get an early start each day, and you probably won't get back to your accommodations until close to dinner time. So highly recommend packing a lunch to go with you, as well as several snacks and drinks, so you don't have to take extra time out of your day to grab those in the park. Plus, park food is few and far between and not always the best, depending on what you enjoy. And so it's nice to bring a picnic lunch with you and you can enjoy the scenery while eating your lunch. So on day 1, I recommend you enter the west entrance as early as possible. If you are coming in the summer season, it gets busy at that west entrance pretty early in the day even. So you're going to want to enter that entrance by 7:30 in the morning to help avoid sitting in traffic. Once you have entered the park, head straight to Old Faithful. This area gets busy quickly, no matter the time of year, unless it's winter. But Old Faithful will almost always be busy, so if you can start your day with Old Faithful, it'll make the rest of the day feel a lot less crowded, and it'll be your only timed thing, so it'll be chill the rest of your day. Once you get to Old Faithful, I highly recommend going on geysertimes.org and checking for the Old Faithful eruption prediction. Old Faithful goes off about every 90 minutes, and as well as Geyser Times and the National Park Service, they will make predictions for the next eruption that will have a plus or minus approximately 10-minute interval. So depending on that eruption, you have a couple of options. If you're pretty close to the eruption, go watch Old Faithful go off. If the eruption is still over 30 minutes away, there's a very nice geyser basin at Old Faithful called the Upper Geyser Basin. Walk around, look at the geysers, look at some of the hot springs, and then watch Old Faithful when it gets closer. You'll probably just need to be in position about 5 minutes before the 10-minute window begins. So about 15 minutes before the predicted time, you want to be in position to be able to watch it go off. You don't have quite enough time to do the Upper Geyser Basin, but you still have a few minutes to kill before the eruption. You have a couple of other things. Highly recommend checking out the Old Faithful Inn. It's a historic building that's beautiful. There's a lot of gift shops also in the Old Faithful area if you were needing a souvenir for the day. And the visitor center at Old Faithful is great if you wanted to walk around and learn a couple of things. So you have a good way to waste some time in the area in case you arrive really early for the eruption. Once Old Faithful has erupted, this is going to be a good opportunity to use the bathroom before your next activity, because most of the spots throughout the park don't have running water bathrooms. So do a restroom break, hop back in the car, and then you're going to head back up the road a little bit, so you're almost going to go backwards, to the Fairy Falls trailhead. This is a very popular trail, so it's possible during peak season you may have to park a little bit further away or participate in some parking lot wars. It's fine, just be patient and wait on a spot to become available before you park and leave. Don't do any illegal parking, please. Just be patient. People come and go pretty quickly. This is a very nice, easy hike, and you're going to accomplish 2 things on it. On this hike, you can do about half a mile up to the Grand Prismatic Overlook. This will have 700 feet of elevation gain on it. It'll be mostly flat and then go up the hill. If you have mobility issues, you don't have to do this hike. Completely skip it, and you could do the Grand Prismatic Boardwalk instead. Or if you don't care about seeing Grand Prismatic at all, you can just skip this completely. But if you are able-bodied and are willing to do this hike, you'll walk about half a mile up and view a nice overlook of Prismatic. If you would like to continue on the trail, you can go for about 2 more miles and see the Fairy Falls. It's going to be mostly flat to Fairy Falls. And then from around Fairy Falls, you can even walk just a few more. I think it's about half a mile more, maybe not even that much, and see a couple of other geothermal features in the area, but you don't have to go that far. You don't even have to do Fairy Falls if you don't want to, but I would recommend it. It's a nice little pretty walk, and it'll help break up all the driving you will do for the rest of the day. After you've seen Fairy Falls, you'll return to your vehicle. And then from there, I recommend heading down to West Thumb Geyser. At this point, it could be close to lunchtime. You could either do lunch after West Thumb Geyser Basin or before. There are a lot of picnic areas and picnic tables throughout Yellowstone. If you get hungry, find a picnic area. They're usually a minimum of 10 to 15 minutes apart. Stop, eat some lunch, enjoy whatever view is there. They also all will have outhouses at them. Anyways, West Thumb Geyser Basin would be the next stop I recommend. This is a large geyser basin right on the borders of Yellowstone Lake, which is the largest high elevation lake in the lower 48. Here at this geyser basin, you will see mud pots. You'll also see some really beautiful blue pools and a lot of other colors. It's a really nice way to stretch the legs and is accessible for most people. From West Thumb Geyser Basin, if you haven't had lunch yet, choose you a nice picnic area along Yellowstone Lake and enjoy the view while eating. And then continue around the lower loop of Yellowstone through up past the lake to the mud volcanoes. The mud volcanoes I think are pretty cool, but they are pretty stinky. So just keep in mind that it doesn't smell the best at the mud volcanoes, and you may choose to not continue if you don't like the smell. If the smell's not bothering you, I recommend doing this small little horseshoe boardwalk to see the mud volcano and Dragon's Mouth. There is additional trail paths here if you're feeling like walking a little bit extra or have a lot of extra time, but if not, I typically just do the little U-shaped boardwalk. From there, you're gonna go just a few more miles up the road, and that will take you into Hayden Valley. This is a good spot for seeing bison, grizzly bears, and wolves during certain times of year. No guarantee of seeing wildlife, but I recommend stopping at a few turnouts, scanning off in the distance, seeing if you see any wildlife. And at this point, you've probably also realized if a bunch of people are pulled over, that means they're seeing something, and you should stop and see what wildlife is there. Reminder that if you're stopping to view wildlife, you should pull into a turnout or put all tires on the other side of the white line and listen to park personnel if they are asking you to step back, go back to your vehicle, or to not stop at all for the safety of you and the wildlife. From Hayden Valley, I recommend continuing on to Artist Point. This is going to be on the south rim drive of the canyon. Artist Point's going to give you a really beautiful view of the lower falls of Yellowstone, as well as the Grand Canyon of Yellowstone. After enjoying this view, continue on to the brink of the upper falls. There's a running water restroom here, by the way, and do a restroom break as well as see the brink of the upper falls. If you're still feeling like seeing something else in Yellowstone and you're not quite ready to go back to your accommodations in West Yellowstone, you could then also do the brink of the lower falls, which is more of a hike. It is quite steep and not accessible to everybody, but is very doable and will take you to the top of the waterfall that you can see from Artist Point. If you're feeling pretty satisfied at this point, I recommend just driving right back to West Yellowstone. It's about an hour from Canyon to the west entrance. You may see some wildlife on your way, or it might just be you're done for the day. If you see anything in between any of these stops you want to stop for, you can, but this will be a pretty full day as is. All right, well, day one, you did the entire lower loop, So day 2, you're gonna do the entire upper loop. Again, we're using the west entrance. If you're using a different entrance, you can tweak this itinerary a little bit for yourself. So as you enter into the west entrance, again, get as early of a start as possible. On this day, I'd even recommend earlier, as the upper loop is really good for wildlife, and the earlier start you get, the better it will be when it comes to seeing wildlife. So you're gonna enter into the west entrance and continue on to Dunraven Pass. This isn't necessarily a specific stop by any means. This is more just a road, but it has some really nice mountain views and can be a good opportunity to potentially see some bears and some other wildlife. I've seen wolves on this road and many bison as well. From Dunraven, you'll continue on into Lamar Valley, where you're going to begin looking for wildlife. You'll first go into Little America, then Lamar Valley, and this is going to be an out and a back road. So you'll go in. I recommend stopping at some turnouts every once in a while. Keep an eye out for anybody who is wildlife watching. If you see a bunch of people set up with spotting scopes, feel free to stop and kindly ask if they're seeing anything. You may even want to do a little side trip down Slough Creek, which I have seen wolves and badgers down that way before, and can just be some nice views. No guarantee of seeing wildlife here, but it's a pretty big valley where you have really good chances of seeing some animals. I recommend doing the entire Lamar Valley till you reach the northeast entrance, then turn around. If it's lunchtime at this point, there are some picnic areas right by the northeast entrance. Stop and have lunch. Not lunch yet. I recommend doing the quick 1-mile hike to Trout Lake. It's a beautiful lake and is a good way to kind of stretch your legs after probably mainly sitting in the car so far this morning. After you've finished your Trout Lake hike, you're gonna go back through Lamar Valley, and now that you've done a hike and maybe even lunch, wildlife might have moved from where they were earlier in the day. So keep an eye out for animals again as you go through, because you never know what could show back up. Once you get back to the Tower Roosevelt Junction, I know that this might seem backwards to people who are familiar with the park, but I'm going to recommend you go visit Tower Falls if that is something you were interested in seeing. I sometimes skip Tower Falls if I'm running low on time, but if you have the time, you can go back down Dunraven Pass for just about 5 minutes, visit Tower Falls. There's also a general store here, and then you're gonna go back up to Tower Roosevelt, so it will be kind of like going backwards for a minute. And then after Tower Roosevelt, I recommend visiting Petrified Tree. This is a really quick, easy stop where you can see a petrified redwood tree. I also see black bears down here sometimes. And then from Petrified Tree, continue on to Undine Falls. There is a quick little turnout where you can view Undine Falls from a paved lookout. If you're feeling like another short hike, you can also park at the Lava Creek picnic area and cross the road and hike to the top of Undine Falls. It is about a mile round trip and fairly easy. And you can do that and see the top of the waterfall. You can also do both. You're not required to not do both, but you can do either one of those and see Undine Falls. And then from Undine Falls, just down the road is Mammoth, and I recommend doing at least the lower terrace of Mammoth Hot Springs. There's a lot of walkway here. You may not have time or feel like doing all of the walkway. I recommend doing the very bottom part, and the upper terrace drive can also be nice, but do as much as you feel comfortable with. You'll also see a lot of historic buildings here, as well as a very nice visitor center if you're wanting to spend some extra time in this area. And then from Mammoth Hot Springs, I recommend continuing back down the road towards the west entrance, and before you meet the west entrance Madison Junction, stop at Gibbon Falls and then leave the west entrance, and that will be another full day in Yellowstone. Will you see everything in 2 days in Yellowstone? Absolutely not. It's impossible. You could visit Yellowstone for a week straight and still not see everything. However, this itinerary will allow you to see the majority of the main sites and a good variety of the main sites, so that hopefully you stay interested the entire time and it won't feel as much like you're just driving and lost throughout the trip. So this is what I would recommend, because it wouldn't mean that you are doing like 12, 14-hour days. Most likely he would be probably around like 8 hours in the park, so you could add more onto it. You can enjoy stuff at your leisure, but this also includes a few really short hikes so that you can stretch your legs and see some stuff that is a little bit more off the beaten path. And then you could also include additional hikes if you wanted to, or do additional days in the park to see things that you may. If you have any other questions or are planning on visiting from another entrance and would like for me to make an itinerary for that entrance, please let me know. And thanks for tuning in.